Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grill Nation show with Jason Grill. I appreciate you joining us today on podcasts. We're on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Also appreciate you listening today. If you're joining us on my live stream on social media, on my Twitter page at Jason Grill, or on at Grill Nation Show. I'm also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Just search for Jason Grill. Today's show is going to be a good one. We are joined again today by a great collaborator with the Grill Nation show, Alan Farris, Senior Vice President of Landmark National Bank. The website for Landmark National Bank is banklandmark.com. Alan, I always like to start with you in our first part of the show, just to get some updates on you, what's going on at the bank, how life is treating you. We're taping this obviously in January, late January. The Chiefs are in the AFC Championship game. I mean, what's going on in your world, my friend?
Well, you started with the most important thing. I finally recovered from the Chiefs game this last weekend. Oh gosh, wonderful time to be in Kansas City.
I'll tell you what, I was out of town in a warm environment, but I was watching it, and my flight was. So I got out of my Uber in Phoenix at right when I think the Chiefs got scored on. I was walking out at 13 seconds left, right? So I'm walking into the airport. They had just scored the Bills. I'm looking at my phone, and I'm like getting ready for a 2.5-hour flight. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna suck. And then I go through security and the clear line, and then I hear all this cheering, and from there on, it was like the best flight of my life. But no, it was quite a game. How looking back at 2021 and starting 2022 at Landmark National Bank, kind of take us through where we're at and what your thought process is right now.
Oh, absolutely. 2021 was a good year for the bank. And I would say for the vast majority of our customers, it was a good year. The challenges that we've all got going forward relate mostly to what's the Fed going to do with interest rates. I think that's a hot topic that everybody's talking about right now. I think most people believe the Fed is being truthful with us, and they're going to increase rates going forward. What I'm really impressed with is the vast majority of the customers we've talked to are really kind of positioned well to deal with that going forward. And obviously the bank is very well positioned to deal with that as well. So that would be the number one issue that we hear most of the time right now.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have a great website, banklandmark.com. A lot of great information there, as well as a lot of blogs and updates and ways that you interact with business owners throughout our region. And we're going to have a business owner on our show today. We're going to be joined here in a second by Mitch Rice, who's the CEO and owner of the Commercial Capital Company. Their website is cccKC.com. I think I have that right. Tell us a little bit about Mitch and what we're going to learn about today.
Well, we'll get into leasing in a much greater detail, but to a large extent, leasing company is a lot like a small bank. They do a lot of business with the same type of people that we do business with, small to medium-sized businesses, primarily financing equipment needs for those businesses. And they can offer some things that the bank cannot offer as from a leasing and tax treatment point of view. We'll talk about that. But the company got started back in 1971 by Mitch's dad, Larry Rice. And so they have weathered lots of the ups and downs over the last 40 plus years. Mitch joined his dad after graduating from KU and has been running the company for the last 15 years or so. Mm-hmm. But we've just enjoyed the relationship, and they're a little bit different. A lot of people will use leases, and I'm going to guess a lot of the people who are listening today to the podcast may very well have a lease with Commercial Capital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be great to talk to Mitch. We're going to bring him in here in a second. Excited to meet him and learn more about him and his business. I want to make sure everyone understands they can, again, connect with me on social media. I've put those up on the screen. For those listening, it's at Jason Grill and at Grill Nation Show on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also want to mention to you, you can listen to us and watch us on YouTube. We're available. All of our videos of our full shows are available on our YouTube channel. Just search for Grill Nation Show with Jason Grill. And if you'd love to be a guest on this show, we'd love to have you. Email grillnationshow@gmail.com. Let's bring in our guest. Let me pull down this banner here and go to a 3 background. We're now joined by Mitch Rice, who is the CEO and owner of Commercial Capital Company. Their website is cccKC.com. Mitch, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. Alan kind of teed it up a little bit there with your KU ties. Let's learn more about you. Tell us about, did you grow up in Kansas City, or what's going on with you and your background?
Right. So we're headquartered here at 95th and Flum, and I grew up about 2 miles to the west at around 87th and Renner. So, been in Kansas City my whole life, never really lived anywhere else. Went to Lawrence for, 4 years, but this is home.
That's not too far.
No, that's not far enough to say I moved away for sure. But so, Kansas City my whole life, been married coming up on 20 years. So got 3
kids. Wow.
Mhm.
You look like a young guy, Mitch.
We got married pretty young, but coming up on 20 years. So,
and how do you know Landmark National Bank and Alan?
So I was referred to Alan. Alan, it's probably been
7-8 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say first time we met was 7-8 years ago. Someone referred me to him and said, "Hey, you need to talk to Alan. He knows your business. He's awesome." And they were right. So after we met, it's always nice to have a banker that knows what you do, knows your clients, knows how to structure things. The whole bank's been great. It's been awesome to get to know Alan on a more personal level too. I consider him a friend, and feel like he's really our advocate over there too. So that's always nice to know that your banker is advocating for you and your needs and all that.
Yeah. Alan, I forget to mention, man, you've been in this Landmark National Bank for many years. I always forget to do that on the intro, but you're a veteran, man.
Well, that's a nice way of saying I'm getting old, right?
You know your stuff, man. You've been very loyal and been there for a long time. So that really helps as far as working with people like Mitch and helping him grow his company. Let's talk a little about that company. Mitch, tell us about Commercial Capital Company, kind of the history, and then we'll get into kind of some of the work that you do.
Right. So, like Alan said, my dad, Larry, he's been in the business for, we actually just had his 50 years in leasing celebration. So 50 years. We've been around a while, and we offer equipment leasing services on a wide variety of different assets to businesses of all sizes in the Midwest. The vast majority of our business is here in KC. We've got, like I said, we're headquartered at 95th and Flum. We've got just under 35 employees. Last year was, like Alan said, last year was a good year for us. It was a good year for a lot of our clients. And we're excited about the future. We've got some pretty aggressive growth plans and a real solid plan on how we're going to get there over the next 10 years. So,
yeah, can't wait to hear more about that. Mitch Rice is with us. Mitch, tell us some about your, if you can, some of your clients and some of your projects that you're most proud of or you've worked on recently that really would put a flavor on kind of your day-to-day and what people can expect.
Right. So, the most rewarding thing we do is to be able to, I'll give you an example. I met a guy and his wife, it was one of my first clients, probably right about 20 years ago. They had a small operation, didn't have credit lines at their bank, didn't have credit to really do what they needed to do. They had just gotten started. It's a trailer manufacturer in Western Kansas. And we took a chance on them, financed some equipment, and that just, as they paid, that just kept on rolling into probably 25 deals over the years, and their business has just grown exponentially. We've helped them automate their whole thing. They're doing over $20 million a year now. So,
oh my gosh,
those stories, those are always very rewarding, especially because I know they would recognize us and our backing of them as a real reason that they're where they're at now. So
mm-hmm.
those are always my favorite clients. We've got just tons of stories like that where we've worked with people. Our tagline is funding your vision. So that's really what we want to do. When we partner with someone, we want to know where they're going, what their goals are, and see where we fit in from a finance standpoint to really help them get there.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, one of the interesting things, I like to say Mitch and Commercial Capital are a little bit like a bank, except they've got some advantages over the bank. Some of the ability for customers, and Mitch talked a little bit about this, from a tax treatment point of view, a lease can be more beneficial given the circumstances.
Right. Yeah. That just depends on, every circumstance is different, but there are tax advantages to doing leasing. We have various options, whether you did a dollar buyout lease or an operating lease where, a dollar buyout lease is treated more like a bank loan where you're depreciating the asset, writing off the interest and so on. But we do a significant amount of operating leases for clients that want to be able to expense the whole payment, keep the loan off their balance sheet, help with their ratios so that they can, when they go to Alan for money, everything is all the boxes check, all the ratios are solid and so on.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, Jason, a lot of bankers would view Commercial Capital as a competitor, and we don't view it that way. They are very complementary. We've referred opportunities to Mitch simply because it was a better fit for what the customer needed at that moment in time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the collaboration there. Like as far as trying to bring each other up, you're helping this business grow. Mitch, you're leaning on them too. I mean, I think we need more of that in our society. Again, markets you serve. I know you do most of it in Kansas City, but you also serve people throughout the Midwest and nationwide. From Illinois to Colorado, from Texas to North Dakota, as well as here locally. How did that happen? How did that grow? How did you span so far and wide with your business?
So, well, after kind of the big recession in 2008, we really contracted and really focused on our core business, which is serving the Kansas City metro, serving all businesses of all sizes in our city. And so as we've grown, the vast majority of our business is here locally, but as we grow, that's our geographical footprint has grown with us as we develop more and more relationships. We do have some markets where we'll go nationwide. It depends on the type of asset, like forklifts, copy machines, things like that. We've got programs that will go nationwide, but it's just everything is easier when it's close to home. You can really get to know your clients. We've got such a solid market share in the equipment leasing in Kansas City that it makes it a lot easier because the chances are we know them. They've been on our books before. So as we get new applications, it just makes the process so much easier when they're local.
And so the growth of your business has been national, but the growth actually has been a lot local as well because of, you mentioned the person you started with many years ago.
Yeah.
And now they've grown to a $20 million business. So as far as the growth of your business, talk about your, the team that you have there and kind of how that's grown and as well as, the client growth.
Right. So we've got a very solid team right now. We've got 35 people and it's the right people in the right seats. And that makes things just work. So
has that talk to us about how that's kind of changed over the years. Have you kind of always been, over 20 employees in the last 10 years? Have you grown recently or how's that worked?
Well, we've had some pretty significant growth here recently, but after 2008, we contracted pretty substantially.
People forget about 2008. It seems like it wasn't that long ago for us.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, man, that's been almost 15 years. So
yeah, I know.
it does not feel like that.
I don't think Alan and I will ever forget 2008.
That's right. I got into real estate. I had 2 jobs, but one of them was a real estate attorney and in development, kind of deal maker, I guess you would say. And man, it was tough getting into that at that time. There was no bonuses. There was very little money. It was the wrong time, because if you were in that industry in 2000, I might still be practicing law full time. But it was rough, man. So I can imagine after that, the family business, what you did.
Yeah, after that, after we contracted pretty heavily, like I said, we after working through our portfolio, which we had issues with at that time period. But after working through that, and as things finally started to slowly get back on track as the economy, started to heal, as the government started spending a bunch of money, we started to grow again. We started hiring a couple new sales reps at that time. And then, we probably hired 2-3 people a year for a while, and got to the point a couple years ago, it was probably 3.5 years ago, where we had 25 people, and we were maxed. We were at max capacity from every aspect, from our funding with our local banks, from our ability to process the transactions that were coming in. There were bottlenecks everywhere, and just seemed like as soon as we fixed one, we'd be exposed over here, get that, patch that hole, and then it's a problem over here. And I was in the end, I was the biggest bottleneck, just trying to wear too many hats at once, and that doesn't work, because you just can't do that. So that making that change, bringing some structure into our business, that was the catalyst that really
talk about that a little more. And that leads us to our segue to lessons learned here, Mitch. That's quite a lesson to learn, and I think a lot of businesses struggle with that, because they're growing, they have a lot of business coming in, but they're not really taking that risk to trust other people to kind of come in and help them accelerate even faster.
Well, that was my problem, was just holding everything together. I was in the middle of everything, and that's just not sustainable at all, especially for growth. So it was, I can't remember, about 4 years ago is when it got to a boiling point, and I had met a woman that she was awesome. She was an implementer for the EOS. It's the entrepreneurial operating system. It's just like a format and a structure for your business. And with her help, we implemented that, and that gave us the structure that we needed. Instead of having 35 direct reports, I had 4.
Wow.
And then everything, just gave us the structure that we needed so that we can actually get stuff done. It allowed us to, address the issues that inevitably come up, and address them in a timely manner, fix our processes, evaluate the people that we have, and, are they the right people? Are they in the right position? And make those changes when we had to, and really just set the foundation for the growth that we had really shortly after that.
Jason, it's interesting what Mitch is really talking about now. We've seen with a lot of customers the last 2-3 years, customers have just had to be so inwardly focused on what they're doing by need, because of what the pandemic has done to us. But over the last year or so, we're really seeing customers, just like commercial capital, begin to focus on growth. What markets do we serve? Are there potential acquisitions that we can do? Are our facilities sufficient? And they're really beginning to get back to what most of the business owners like, and that's the future. I know one of the things that Mitch did over the last year, they moved into a big new building where they're located right now. That really has allowed them to facilitate that growth that he's talking about.
Yeah. It's amazing. And that kind of leads me to Mitch, to the core values of the commercial capital company. You have those on your website at ccckc.com. Let's talk about that, because that really kind of goes to your evaluation of your team and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Talk to us about those. I see 4 major ones on the website.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got four main core values. Number 1, do the right thing. That in our industry, and really in life in general, that's a very solid core value. But in our industry, especially, because our industry, unlike Alan's, ours is 100% unregulated, and that could be a breeding ground for some pretty shady players that don't have their clients' best interest in mind. They just see dollar signs. And, there's not as many disclosures as with a bank. So we have to be upfront, honest, and, always do the right thing by our customers.
Even if it's not easy, right?
Well, it's not. Sometimes
because in life in general,
Yeah.
right, we see times where, usually if you're positive and take the high road, things work out. But a lot of people don't operate like that. And so they'd rather hide than do the right thing. So,
yeah. In our industry, doing the right thing it's obviously not the easy road most times, but it's the solid road. And that's something that we pride ourselves in. We have a great reputation. We are always honest with our clients as far as what costs, what fees. There's no surprises. That's the biggest difference.
That's a great motto, man. No surprises policy usually works.
No
and even in a professional service company like I do, or in anything, if you're just like, here's what it costs, and when you get an invoice, it's going to be what you think it's going to be. There's no hidden stuff. Here's what it is. And
so our second one is always be caring and compassionate, both inwardly and outwardly, with our people here and our community.
That's great.
Yeah. Then number 3 is be tenacious. We always find a way. So that's something that we live by daily. Our sales staff is they're pretty tenacious. They're out looking for deals, building relationships, and we find a way to get them done. Whether that's doing, startups, financing startups, new businesses, those are not easy. And there's there's credit challenges, especially through COVID. There's a lot of clients that we have that have had credit issues. New applicants might, in the service industry, they've had a rough couple years. So we are tenacious about that. We find a way to get those people approved, to get them the stuff they need so that they can continue and, rebuild what they had that they're working to rebuild through all this. The number 4 is continuously improving. So that's probably been the most impactful one the last couple of years. We're always looking for ways to improve ourselves, and given the huge advances in the financial technology arena, that's another thing where we've made some pretty significant changes over the past 3-4 years where, it was either that was part of our problem. It was either time to change or time to just work with what we had here. So if we were going to grow, that was the biggest change we made. And it was rough at first. I mean, anytime you change all your processes, all your software, all of that stuff, that's awful. But now we've come full circle with it, and it's great. But man, the growing pains for sure through that.
What's the biggest issue right now facing your industry?
Well, I'd say, there's, like I said, there's always going to be a pretty big integrity issue in our industry. There's some regulation coming out that from a disclosure standpoint in some states, but that'll always be an issue. But we've overcome that. We're above that. But the biggest issue in our industry right now for businesses of our size, I would say, is having the technological infrastructure to compete with the big players that dominate the market. The Wells Fargos, the Bank of Americas, the big players that have invested millions of dollars into their platforms. And we've invested pretty heavily in that. And we have spent a lot of money and time building that out so that we can, offer the same services that a lot of the big players will. All of our clients, they just want easy access to their data. They want to be able to log in to our system, see when their payments are due, make a payment, get a payoff, all that stuff without picking up the phone. So that's those changes that we've made from a customer interaction standpoint, and just a efficiency standpoint too, by being able to automate a lot of our approval process, our underwriting, documentation, integrating DocuSign. So all that stuff, that's the biggest challenge in our industry when it comes to, competing with the large players.
Would you say that was probably the biggest risk you've taken recently, is trying to upgrade the technology, or were there other risks that you think that you took that has helped to elevate your growth more?
Well, there's two answers to that question. Yes, on the technology investment, that was a lot. And we didn't show, the returns didn't come back on that. I mean, it took a year and a half to really before we even flipped the switch. So that was a one-way street for a while. The money was all out the door for a while with that, but it's like I said, when it came full circle, it is exactly what we needed. And the timing was rough through COVID and all that. But if we didn't have what we invested in and all that, it would have been much more difficult to navigate. But the other risk, which was buying this building, moving into this place here at 95th and Flum, it's much bigger than we need now, but we're set for the future. So we've got 25,000 square foot office and a big warehouse and a big lot out back. And without that, through COVID, because we did have a significant amount of equipment come back through the pandemic. And if we didn't have a facility, like before, we did not have a facility to handle equipment returns on the level we did. But we were much better served by having this place. But it wasn't fun. I mean, it was right at the end of March 2020 when I was signing all the paperwork.
Oh my gosh,
things are melting down. I mean, they canceled the MLB season, they canceled the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
All the flights.
That's when you signed the deal on the new office.
Yes.
Oh my god. Wow. Talk about a, that's like signing a startup signing a bank guarantee when they're on a personal level.
I know.
Company. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that caused some sleepless nights for sure. But looking back, I mean, it was ideal. So I'm glad that's a risk. I'm glad we took. But
you've also made an investment in your people too. It's been nice to see some of the new people that you've surrounded yourself with, and building that depth of management that I know you were working on in 19, 20, and it takes a while to find the right people, and as you say, get them in the right seats on the bus.
Yeah, no, that's the number one. I mean, the technology was totally needed, but just by having the right people in the right spots, that's been the biggest game changer. And that's not always easy to do,
right?
One way or the other. But
one thing I like that you all do, and I know Landmark National Bank does it as well, is you do informational type stuff like a podcast, and Leasing 101 is on your website, which kind of goes through kind of the basics of how you do all this stuff, which is great. You're providing content and education for those who, maybe aren't as well versed in this arena.
Right. So there's, the biggest things that brings clients to us is it's the ease of doing business with us. That's the primary reason that people lease equipment is they can fill out a credit app, they can sign their documents in, roughly 30 minutes after that, get the equipment they need that afternoon. That's primarily the case, but there are every situation is different when it comes to their tax, where they're at with their taxes, what their balance sheet looks like, things like that. That where we come in and we can really structure the lease so that it fits their cash flow. Number one, it's the right thing for them from a tax standpoint.
I feel like it's just such a personal relationship with you all compared to some of the big players that national players that we've read about in the headlines in the past. That's such a huge differentiator for you.
Right. And I talked to our leadership team. We were talking about this the other day as we kind of went through our 10-year plan, and we've got some pretty aggressive growth goals. But it's how do we, how can we grow to where we want to be while maintaining that? Because I don't want to be like Wells Fargo. No one likes stealing, or not to throw them under the bus. I'll say one of the big companies. No,
they had some crisis stuff in the past, didn't they?
Yeah, you're just a number. You're a number with them, and I don't want our people to ever be a number. I want, I want it to be personal.
And one of the things you also do around that is community engagement. And we talked about why you're in Kansas City and how you've got a lot of work here and grew up here. And community engagement's important because it does grow your relationships in the community, and which leads to more clients and more business, and more word of mouth and referrals. You all are very engaged in Kansas City.
Yes. Oh yeah. So we've got, just from on the business side, we've got 2,800 active lessees that are currently on our books paying monthly leases, and about 80% of them are here in within 50 miles of downtown. So we have a very solid investment in Kansas City, and we've always taken great pride in being from Kansas City. I think every Kansas Citian is especially now, things are great in Kansas City. There's a lot to be proud of being from here.
Well, I can tell you this, we don't have the palm trees in the 75 every day, but we have had a pretty warm winter. But I will tell you, when people visit who are living in markets that are hot right now, once they get here and they see, the restaurants and the ability to get around, and they go to a Chiefs game or they go to an art gallery. I mean, they really do appreciate what we have here, and then they leave and go back to their city, and they're kind of shocked, to be quite honest.
Yep. No, there's a lot to be proud of here. So on the community engagement, so we really, this past year, we had a good year, and we really looked for ways to give back to our community. So we set up an internal committee to really plan out our year-end giving for local charities, and really plan 2022 so that we are active, on a monthly basis, not just at the end of the year, but active, participating with local charities, partnering with them from a financial and service standpoint. And that's been great. Everybody's bought into that, and everybody wants to serve other people. I think that's the type of people you want working with you. So that's been big. And plus people want to work at a place where you're charitable with your time and invest in your community. People are drawn to that. So I think that we've got some real momentum with that, where people want to work here. People want to come join our team. So we've had great success with hiring, and I think that's a part of it.
That's great to hear, and I completely agree with you on that. If people want to work for companies that give back and are engaged in the community, and you mentioned 2022 and what you're doing behind community engagement, let's just briefly talk about your goals for this year. We're already out of the first month of 2022 already, but what are your kind of goals for your business?
So a lot of the goals still revolve around advances with our technology. We're rolling out a couple big pieces to that from an accounting standpoint. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that going on. But our biggest goal is, last year we just eclipsed $75 million in equipment financed, and goal for this year is 90. So I think that's attainable.
That's a real goal there, Mitch.
Yeah, I know. So the market's good. The infrastructure bill passed. That'll stimulate construction, and that represents a pretty good piece of our portfolio. So that'll be beneficial.
I mean, when the biggest infrastructure bill in the history of this country
Right.
passes, it's usually good for your world, I would assume.
Right. No, yeah. The construction equipment's a third of our portfolio. So yes, it will. That'll be large part of the growth, I think.
That's great.
But yeah, just as I think I'm confident we'll get there. Just with that passing, things continue to, everybody had a good year last year, and I think most people are forecasting positive.
Are the supply chain issues, how are they affecting you and your company?
Oh yeah. So, that effect was kind of indirect. Our supply chain issues are more our customer supply chain issues.
Right.
And that was impactful. I mean, we kind of, usually if we approve a deal, approval's good for 90, 120 days. We've had to really adjust where we might approve someone for a piece of equipment and they're going to get it in 10 months. So that's been a little bit of a game changer. But we've dealt with that. We've had to make adjustments to our policies to fit the current climate, but hopefully that's going to catch up in the next 6 months. I think it's already starting to.
Mm-hmm. Alan, I'm going to head to our last few questions here. Please chime in if you'd like at any time. You've learned a lot in your career, Mitch. Obviously, have a business leader and your dad and the business that you guys have grown. What is your best personal and career advice that you have maybe that you've learned along this journey?
So I would say to associate yourself with people that you want to be like. So I think it was Ed Milet. Have you heard of Ed Milet?
He's not. Please tell us more.
Okay. He's great. He's got a real solid podcast as well. So he had this, I was listening to him one time and he gave this example of a thermostat and said, so say you're an 80 degrees in some area of your life. If you associate with people that operate at a much higher degree, then your internal thermostat will rise to up towards their level. So that's, I would say, associate with people that you want to be like, and find a mentor, whether either in your business or not. That was a game changer for me too. So I came across the hemp program here in Kansas City. It's the Hellsberg Entrepreneurial Mentoring Program, probably 5 years ago. And
you went through that program.
I got accepted to that, and
that's not hard to get into. That's not easy to get into, Alan.
No,
they would never let me or you in there.
Yeah.
You got to do what, like 2 or 3 million in revenue, like in the first few years. I mean, it's a tough. I've had friends go through it. So, Mitch, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, that was great, and they paired me up with they pair you with an typically older, more experienced, successful entrepreneur in Kansas City, and they paired me up with Keith Bennett from Emery Sapp and Sons Construction, and Keith was phenomenal. I give him a lot of credit for really helping us 4 years ago get the foundation set and get organized and really help us with the big picture plan. Mm-hmm. So that I would say find a mentor. That
was he one of your favorite mentors you've had then? I mean, obviously your family, but would you say that he was one of them?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We were a great fit, and that was big success story for that particular program for sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, find a mentor. I think people sometimes, there's people in any business. There's people that you want to be like in your business on the next level of you. I think people underestimate how open those people are to taking phone calls, answering emails to someone that is not where they're at, that wants to get to where they're at. So I've reached out to people, leaders in our industry that own, companies that do 3-4 billion a year, and they are more than willing to talk about they all love reminiscing about when they were our size and how they got there, and they're all willing to help. Every one of them's been willing to help. So that'd be my advice.
That's amazing. What do you foresee in the future as we close the show? Future of your industry? Obviously a long runway here. What are you most excited about, or what does the future really hold for the industry?
So equipment leasing, it's over $1 trillion industry in the United States. So it's huge. As we grow, the financial aspect, the technology aspect is what I'm most excited for. As we change and we automate as much as we can, and continue to evolve into that while still keeping it personal. That's my biggest. That's what I'm most excited about, and still kind of the biggest challenge too is to get where we want to go without losing the personal touch and the interactions that we have with our clients.
Mm-hmm. I love it, Alan. We're gonna put up your website here real quick again, up on the screen if you're watching. cccKC.com. Mitch Rice, obviously CEO and owner of the Business Commercial Capital Company, cccKC.com. Mitch, thanks for all this information you provided to us today. Just an awesome story to hear about, and a growth company. And we appreciate your honesty and transparency, as always, about things that you've learned along this journey and ways you think that the company can grow, and even talking about your competitors, and then talking about how you work with the bank. I think that's pretty interesting, based on what most people would see it as a conflict as far as you guys being competitors. You've been able to work together and really helped yourself grow.
Yep. Yeah. I can't say enough about Landmark. They've been a big piece of our growth thus far, and an even bigger piece in the future. So they're great people. Highly recommend.
Well, Mitch, we really appreciate it. Alan, I'm going to come back to you. Mitch, thank you for joining us today on the show. We'll hopefully talk to you again soon.
You got it. Hey, thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it. Hey, Alan, great show today. Really enjoyed talking to Mitch Rice. What a guy. I mean, we learned a lot from him. Very transparent, very open. The company, I've learned a lot about it, things that I didn't even know. I mean, a lot of this is above my head, but now I know if I ever need to lease equipment, and get capital, I know who to go to.
Amen. Again, it goes back to, I think a lot of the people that are going to be listening to this are going to go, oh, Commercial Capital. We've had leases with them because they're just so prevalent in the Kansas City market.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you, Alan, as always. Another great show, another great guest that you connected Grill Nation to today. The website is banklandmark.com. For you all, you guys are working with some of the best companies in Kansas City. It's always a pleasure to have you on, because I find that all of our interviewees are first class. You haven't really brought on any duds yet, Alan.
Well, we don't have it. and Jason, with luck, by the time we next talk, we'll have another Super Bowl championship in Kansas City.
Wouldn't that be nice? I was going to ask that question to Mitch and to you about, what is one thing you want to see happen in 2022? But now I think I know. I mean, it's not even worth the question. We already know what it is. It'd be great if we could get to the Super Bowl and beat the 49ers again, or the Rams in their home stadium, right?
When again, I'm a little concerned. We seem to be playing these teams that are supposedly neutral sites, but they're playing in their own stadiums. So let's hope it's the 49ers.
That would be fun. And I got to go to that Super Bowl 2 years ago. And I'll tell you what, they really did travel. Their fans traveled to Miami, and they were loud. And so that'd be a heck of another battle. I would love to see it. Alan Farris, Landmark National Bank, thanks for joining us today on the Grill Nation show. And I want to also thank our great guest, Mitch Rice from Commercial Capital Company. Their website is cccKC.com. We'll see you again next week, everybody. Thanks for joining us on today's Grill Nation show.